What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of the Narcissists Code. I'm your favorite self-aware narcissist, Mr. Lee Hammock, better known as Mental Healness across all social media platforms. If this is your first time seeing my face or hearing my lovely voice, I'm a clinically diagnosed narcissist, and I use my platform on social media to raise awareness for NPD, get more people into therapy, and also validate the victims, survivors, and thrivers of said disorder, said toxic people, said toxic traits, all the other stuff. Today's episode is going to be about how do narcissists become narcissists. This is one of the main questions I get, y'all, on my platform. Before we hop into it, y'all, the Self-Love Journal is available on Amazon. Check it out. I Love Me, a Self-Love Journal by Lee Hammock. It helps you rebuild that self-love and identity after leaving or while you're still currently in a toxic relationship dynamic. Amazon. So how do narcissists become narcissists? So I'm going to go into my own personal story a little bit, but I'm going to also give a few other different ways. My therapist said that because I don't have a lot of memories before I turned 7 or 8 years old, she said I became a narcissist because of a fracturing in my personality when I was in my youth. You know, do I remember the exact incident or the exact circumstances that happened to me? Absolutely not. I don't remember, y'all. My mind has created this mental blockage for that right there. My mind has stopped me. My mind is protecting me from some kind of traumatic event that has happened in my life that may be a narcissist. And you know, to me, I think narcissism at its core is hyper vigilant self-defense. You know, and we feel like we're defending ourselves against anything, all enemies, foreign, domestic, and self, because we are our own worst enemies. When you are a narcissist, when you have a personality disorder and things of that nature, you see what I'm saying? But you do get a lot of narcissistic people, a lot of toxic people that deal with it like this, y'all. Like, some kind of trauma can definitely 100% create a narcissist. It doesn't create every single narcissist. I don't think so. You know, some people say there's a genetic component. I'm gonna talk about that later. But right now I'm gonna talk about trauma. Trauma. Some type of trauma in our childhood creates us. It makes us who we are. It alters our perception. It alters our reality, and it sends us into, you know, we create this narcissistic personality because it's a disorder. You know, it is a disorder, a personality disorder. I have a personality. Y'all love my personality for the most part because I'm funny, but it's disordered. You know, it's a shame-based disorder. Some kind of trauma happened in my childhood that created an enormous amount of shame. You know, they created an enormous amount of shame, and something in me told me, hey, look, we're never, ever going to experience that again. That will never, ever happen to us again. You know, I remember my mind thinking that, y'all. And then I remember that I remember waking up on my 7th or 8th birthday. You know, I don't remember having any memories before that. I have like one or two memories before that, not very many, you know. And it's kind of wild because trauma can absolutely create a narcissist. I don't know what type of trauma I experienced. I don't think it was any sexual trauma or anything like that. More along the lines of probably, neglect and things of that nature. Neglect and physical trauma as opposed to SA and anything along those lines right there. But childhood neglect can absolutely, they'll say trauma. Neglect is trauma, y'all. Neglecting your children and not being emotionally available to your children is trauma. It is abuse. You can abuse your children. You can traumatize your children by neglecting them, by not being there for them, by just doing the bare minimum of being a parent. You can neglect your children. I know people are just like, I don't want to create a narcissistic child. Don't neglect them. Validate your children. Give them a safe space to become who they need to become around you, to feel safe, to express themselves around you, to feel happy and healthy around you in these circumstances, in this situation. You know what I mean? Because it's up to you to validate your children, you know, create a safe space for them, because trauma can absolutely make a narcissist. Like, you know, my mom was there. I mean, she worked second shift, but she was there for the most part. My dad, you know, I know my dad. I know people are like, you're a black man, you don't know that. I know who my dad is, y'all. I absolutely 100% know who my dad is. He was around. He was just neglectful. He was not emotionally available, and he just wasn't. So trauma can create a narcissist, y'all. Trauma, being traumatized, being neglected, being emotionally abused, being physically abused in your childhood can absolutely create this personality, can disorder your personality. My therapist said you had a personality fracturing in childhood where you feel like your needs were not getting met this way. So your personality fractured and created this narcissistic side of you. So that's why I just said, a lot of times, sometimes you'll see a narcissistic person who behaves like two different people. It's not dissociative, it's not DID, dissociative identity disorder, but it's behaving like two different people, like the narcissistic side of them and the non-narcissistic normal side of that person, you know? So you probably have dealt with this before, you know? If you are dealing with a narcissist or a toxic person, whoever, you probably dealt with the narcissistic side of them, who turns, you know, could be cold, callous, lacks empathy, you know, ego huge and things of that nature. Do anything to avoid accountability and shame and anything of the such. That happens quite a bit when you're dealing with, you know, toxic narcissistic people. You know what I mean? That's how it goes though. It just will, you know. Oh, somebody calling me, y'all. But that's how it goes. Like you probably see the disordered part of them, you know? So like I said, something happened in my childhood where my personality fractured. It's still there. You know, the other part of me is still there. The non-narcissistic part of me is still there. It's just the narcissistic part of me takes over a lot. If you dealt with a narcissist or you are a narcissist, you might understand this part of what I'm talking about. Like the part of you that feels normal is still there. It might just be buried beneath some layers. And, you know, you might have to drink to bring it out. But a lot of times, the narcissistic side of you is there as well. You see what I'm saying? The narcissistic side of you can overpower and take control sometimes. You know, that's how it goes. But that's part of it, y'all. That is part of the dynamic. That is part of the process. That's how it goes a lot of times. You know, I tell it to people all the time. But what else can create a narcissist? Not just neglect and trauma. There could very well be a genetic component to creating a narcissistic person, to creating a person with narcissistic personality disorder. Because in my story, I told you how my father was neglectful. Is my father a narcissist? I don't think so. I think he's a traumatized child as well. I think he was traumatized as a child as well. And that led to the neglecting me and my brother. You know, my twin brother is not a narcissist. I tell people I have a twin brother, like, oh, is he a narcissist? No, my twin brother is not a narcissist. So please don't comment that. My twin brother is not a narcissist. He's not. I know people was like, you twin? I said he's not. But the way that dynamic goes a lot of times though, y'all, it's just like I think my therapist said, because my grandfather unalived himself when he was 27 years old. I don't know if y'all know this story. My grandfather unalived himself when he was 27 years old, right? My therapist said, well, he might have had undiagnosed schizophrenia, you know, because you get up, you know, like I said, he might have heard voices or something like that and got up and decided on a Monday morning, everything seemed normal. Got up Monday morning, pow, shot himself, and, you know, my father found him, was traumatized my father. There's no therapist, no psychology up, there's no psychology expert to take care of little boys in the 70s, you know. So sending him to school the next day. He's a traumatized child who lost his father, who found him with a hole in his head. So that happens sometimes too, when you're dealing with narcissistic people, like traumatized, like he traumatized him. And my therapist said there's a genetic component to schizophrenia. You could have a genetic predisposition for schizophrenia and toxic traits and toxic behaviors and personality disorders as well, possibly. So my grandfather definitely had something going on, which could have maybe passed down to my father or skipped my father and passed down directly to me and skipped my brother. You see what I'm saying? It's just like there's something going on in the family lineage that, you know, and then like I could have had a genetic predisposition. I don't think I was born a narcissist, but it might have been in my genetic code. I might have had a genetic predisposition to have a personality disorder, right? And being traumatized as a kid could have been the catalyst to activate that personality disorder, to activate the shame, to cause the fracturing that caused the self-defense mechanism to kick in. You know what I mean? So that does happen quite a bit when you deal with narcissistic people and toxic people, y'all. Like the personality fractures and you get it's kind of like you get two people within one person. It's the same person. It's not like DID, dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personality disorder. It's when there's multiple people inside of one vessel. Narcissistic personality disorder, to me, it's the same person. It's just different personalities. You see what I'm saying? It's the same person. It's just a fracturing of the personalities. It's still the same person. It's still, it's still me, but it's me, but it's a different version of me, I would just say. It's still the same person, y'all. I'm not denying that. I'm not trying to go, oh, it's not me. It is me. So if you're dealing with that narcissist, it's still them. That's them. If they're treating you badly, that's them. But is their personality disorder part of it? And this is not me trying to get you to feel bad for this person. I'm just trying to explain how somebody could possibly become a narcissist. Could be trauma, could be a genetic predisposition. Narcissistic robot resetting. It could be trauma, or it could be a genetic predisposition to having a personality disorder. It could be in our genetic codes, and it just it's funny how it works that way sometimes. You know what I mean? Not funny, but like it's just like when you start. If I would have went to therapy, I would have never known what was going on inside of my head. I would have never known about my grandfather, because I don't have a good relationship with my father. You know, I would have never known what happened to my grandpa. If I wouldn't have went to therapy and been curious of where I came from and how I got to this point, I would have never known. So if you're thinking about going to therapy for any other reason, just go to therapy, just if for nothing else, to find out why you are the way that you are, why you think the way that you think. You know, it could bring you some clarity and some peace as well to your life. Anyways, y'all, thank y'all for tuning into another episode. I truly appreciate every single one of y'all, because I know I say this all the time, but like as much as y'all say y'all learn from me, I learn even more from you. I really, really do. Again, before I hop off here, check out the Self-Love Journal on Amazon. Lee Hammock, I Love Me, a Self-Love Journal. If you already bought the journal, I appreciate you. Leave me a 5-star review on there, y'all. I'm super thankful, y'all. Like and subscribe for more. Mental Illness is out. Peace.